Joining me now, Paul Steinhauser. Paul, a roving freelance reporter, one of the few left in America that makes his living reporting, working for a different conglomerate of outlets, newspaper, radio, TV. Thing I love about Paul is that he's an independent, like I am. So he's not beholden to anybody. He doesn't have a boss. His boss is the people that listen to him or read his stuff. That's the best way to be. He's one of a dying breed. That's why we love having him on our show. He's like the John Fredericks Godzilla of print. Paul, great to have you, man.
I should have paid good money for that intro. That was special, John. Thanks.
I'm gonna tell what I'm gonna do. Hey, Kira, save that intro for Steinhauser, and we'll send it to him, and he can put that up on his website, because that's why I love having you on, Paul, because you're a freelance reporter. There are so few of those around today, but it gives you tremendous independence because you're not beholden. You have no bosses other than the people that read your stuff. And when the people stop reading your stuff or listening to you, then you're out of you don't have a career. So that's why you're only beholden to your audience, like me. That's why we get along. Now, I had to leave Iowa because I have a meeting here that I was called to today in D.C. that I had to be at. But you saw my column. I think Bernie is going to win big. He's got all the enthusiasm. What's going on with Biden and this phone call from John Kerry saying, well, maybe I should run for president. What do I have to do? If Bernie wins, the Democratic Party is in shambles. What the hell's going on?
I think it's another sign that the Democratic establishment is apoplectic, that if Sanders wins big in Iowa, that he could end up being the nominee, and they're terrified that would lead to a slaughter in November again, not only in the presidential contest, but also down ballot. Can they hold the House? Can they retake the Senate? So, yeah, John Kerry, he's pushing back heavily against this NBC News report that he was saying these things that he would run. But even if, he never 100% pushed back, though, on his comments about the deep concerns about Bernie Sanders. This was interesting, too. I was with Joe Biden last night at his last event. Biggest crowd to date. He had over 1,000 people, so give him that. But Kerry was there, and he gave Kerry a shout-out as well. And I'm sure he did that because of all the news that had happened earlier in the day.
Right.
But John, you're right. It's another sign, it's another signal that the Democratic establishment is terrified that Bernie Sanders could win this whole thing. Let's
break what Kerry did down. I mean, the guy's been campaigning with him here nonstop for 2 weeks, right? He knows him better than anybody. He served with him. He was Secretary of State. Biden was Vice President. He's on his team. Even for him to have that conversation tells you right there he has no confidence that Biden's got any traction. Second thing is, right, the first tweet he sends out has the F word in it. Now,
that was something.
Look, Paul, right? I mean, you and I are in the communications business. I mean, when you're the former Secretary of State, you ran for president at 6 p.m. on November, whatever it was, in 2004, when they got the exit polls back, your campaign was calling you Mr. President. I mean, you were that close to winning, leader of the free world, and you send a tweet out with the F word in it. You only do that, Paul, when your level of frustration has hit its apex. And the guy's not a heavy drinker, so it's not like he got blasted, all right? He's just not. I mean, he'll have a couple beers, I understand, but he's not a heavy drinker. So you throw that out. So the frustration has to be at its apex for him to send that out with the F word in it. Of course, he deleted it. But he must know that the candidate he's backing is toast.
I'm not in his mind. I think it's fair to say what you just said is that, yeah, there's a lot of frustration there. He should have been more careful. He had that conversation like at a restaurant at a popular hotel in downtown Des Moines. If you're going to have that conversation, you have it in a quiet, private room. As for using the profanity, I will also say, listen, our president of the United States says some pretty atrocious things on Twitter every day. So I'm not going to blame Kerry for that.
Oh no, I'm not impugning him for doing it. I'm saying that it's an indication of his level of frustration.
Yeah,
right?
I totally agree
because he
with
doesn't talk that way. I mean, Trump throws that around in personal conversation all the time. It's it's kind of the New York thing. It's not the way Kerry talks. So when I saw that, I'm like, I was a head scratcher. I'm like, okay, he's really frustrated
Yeah.
about what's going on out there.
Agreed. And here's where it stands, okay? We had a bunch of polls yesterday. So if you average them all together like Real Clear Politics does, you've got Bernie Sanders probably about 4 points ahead of Joe Biden right now. Bernie about 25%, Biden just right around 2021. And then you've got Buttigieg and Warren just a couple points back in the mid-teens. And Klobuchar's just below 10%, which is troubling for her because this is a caucus. It's not a primary. If she doesn't crack 15%, she's not viable. And then we'll see where her supporters go when there's that second round. Remember,
Right.
we get 2 rounds. We get 2 rounds out here. And they make it even more confusing. And we mentioned this before. For the first time now, the Iowa Democratic Party is going to release not just one set of results, but 3. They're going to have the percentages, the final percentages. That's what we've always gotten. But then they're also going to give us the raw vote totals for the first round and then the second round, where the supporters of candidates that weren't viable can go back another candidate or just remain uncommitted. So we could have multiple candidates claiming victory here. If Bernie wins all 3 of those, if he wins the percentages and the raw vote totals for the first and second round, that's when he's the clear winner and gets a huge amount of momentum and probably a boatload of campaign cash coming out of Iowa.
Klobuchar closing argument says we better not screw this up. Interpretation: don't vote for Bernie. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. Listen, she's a centrist, moderate candidate. Her argument is that she is, A, she can get things done. B, she's electable. She was on Fox News Sunday yesterday morning, and she said, regardless of the results here, she said she admitted she needs a good finish here, but she says regardless, she's heading on to New Hampshire. We'll see we'll see what she says tomorrow morning, depending on the results tonight. Klobuchar, Warren, and Sanders all flew out of here last night. They had to go back. Of course, the trial resumes this morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, the Senate impeachment trial. Their hope is they'll be back out here. They should be, because I think it's about 4 hours of closing arguments. They should probably get on planes around 3, 4 o'clock from D.C. and be here in time for the caucuses tonight. Is that crazy? We've never had an impeachment trial going on when the Iowa caucuses were happening.
It's insane and really taxing on some of these candidates and not fair to them. But look, there's been a lot of surrogates out there. But I pointed this out in my column the other last night. The number one surrogate that's getting the biggest audience is AOC. Is this the party of AOC now?
Yeah, partially, but it's also the party of Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. It's a huge party. There's plenty of centrists. There's plenty of moderates. But it is true. I mean, let's be honest. It's the progressives that get all the attention. It's the progressives that have all the energy. Bernie's got a lot. I was with Sanders yesterday. He's got a lot of energy right now, and that's an important thing. It's a huge party, and there are some deep divisions in this party. We saw them play out in 2016. That allowed, in part, to let Donald Trump win the White House. And the Democrats need to be careful, because if the same divisions, and they sure seem like they're getting pretty big right now. If they're still the same divisions are there in November, you're going to see a second term of Donald Trump, and that's not what these Democrats want.
They don't want it, but we're going to see tonight, Paul. It's going to be very interesting. This 3-tier thing, everybody claiming victory. The way it's always been done is, whoever gets the highest percentage in the final tally is going to be the winner. But you're right. If Bernie wins all 3 legs, it's like the Iowa Triple Crown, all in one night, right?
A trifecta.
Oh my God! If he wins the trifecta, Paul Steinhauser. I got to tell you, if he wins the trifecta, oh my God, the hair that's going to catch fire in Washington, D.C. at the Democratic National Committee, the fax, the phones are going to be going off, tweets are going to be going out, texts are going to be, phone calls. I mean, they're going to go absolutely, they're going to be beside themselves. Because they don't think, obviously, they don't think that Bernie is a candidate that can win, and they're afraid he's going to take the whole thing down. I don't share that view, Paul. I don't cut movement short, and Bernie's got a movement, and so you don't know how big it can get, and he's likely to pick off one of these Trump states like Michigan. So I don't count him out. But look, we'll see what happens tonight. Paul.
Yeah, listen, change is sometimes good, but change, you can't stop it. Look what happened to the Republican Party. The establishment pushed back heavily against Donald Trump in 2015, and even after he captured the nomination, there were still plenty who were pushing against him. It's now Donald Trump's party. If Bernie Sanders wins this nomination, you're going to see
his party.
It's his party. So we'll see. Hey, one other thing, I just got to mention this because nobody's been talking about it much. Yes, over the weekend, a poll came out from South Carolina. Now, this, of course, is Joe Biden's stronghold, right? This is where, if all else fails, he'll do well in South Carolina. But the Post and Courier, one of the big newspapers there, had a poll out. It showed Biden's lead much, much smaller, just 5 points ahead of Sanders. And Biden had been leading in this state by double digits. That should be of concern. So, you know who needs the biggest? Biden needs a big night. He needs to come in, either win it, of course, or come in a close second. He needs that. He's getting low on campaign cash compared to Bernie and Warren and Buttigieg. He needs a good finish tonight to kind of beef everything up and kind of motivate his supporters.
Well, that poll that came out last night, the South Carolina poll, I mean, that had to send absolute chills up the spine of the entire Biden machine, which is now on the brink of crashing in the ditch. A month ago, he had a 31-point lead. Now he's in a statistical dead heat.
Yeah, you know, it's surprising, but is it an outlier or not? You know, so I never get too excited about one poll, right? But it is definitely worth talking about, and that's why we're doing it.
John Fredericks Radio Network. Hey, Paul, great to have you with us. Do you have a website or somewhere where somebody can follow you on a daily basis?
Well, you can see most of my stuff, obviously, at Fox News on the website there. I write for them pretty much full-time on the politics page. Yeah, and then, of course, you can go to my Twitter feed. I post all my stories there at Steinhauser NH1. So I appreciate it. Always great joining you, John. And you coming up to New Hampshire?
Oh, man, I can't wait. I'll be there on Wednesday night in the 603.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
All right, man. I'll be with the Corey Lewandowski team.
Corey loves you. He loves you.
I know. I'm gonna be at his house, and then we've got who do we hang with? A couple of House of Representative members. Fred Doucet is one of the guys we hang.
Fred Doucet, and now Baldessaro, probably Al Baldessaro.
We call it the New Hampshire Mafia, but I'll be there on Wednesday. I can't wait. I have such a good time with them. All they do is make me laugh. They're the funniest guys, the whole bunch of them. So it's Uncle Fred, Cousin Brucey, and the gang. Thanks, man. Thanks for being with us, Paul. Thanks for fitting us in.